like me, black like me.
Growing up in mainstream America, Joy lost her sense of blackness. For the past 5 years, she has put herself through a transformation from white to black, both physical and mental. She calls it her journey home. Joy's experience warns us of the price that can be paid by Black America if culture loses its importance. By society's standards, Joy is a success. She graduated from the University of Buffalo with honors. She was taught by some of New York's finest acting directors. By the time she was 30, she had managed 3 professional theater companies. But Joy felt trapped in white America, cut off from her culture, her history, and her people. She felt her soul was dying.
I was the one that integrated everything, right? So when they needed a little blackie to integrate the campus school in Buffalo, I was the one. When they needed a little blackie to integrate the white prep school, I was the one. Before I was 14, I'd seen every major college in North America, United States, Canada, Mexico, and Cuba. I mean, there were little pictures of me at 7 with my Harvard t-shirt outside Harvard. Little pictures of me at 8 with my Notre Dame t-shirt outside of Notre Dame and stuff. So my values, my images were all white. All my role models were white. You know, they were, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be Katharine Hepburn, and I wanted to be Peter Pan, and a scary thing happened when I went home a couple of years ago, and I went into my playroom. And my playroom was a part of the unfinished attic, and because it was unfinished, I could draw on the walls, and it was a way that my parents allowed me to be creative, and it also was my own space, and I could do what I needed to do in it. And I had drawings all over the walls, and all the drawings were of little blonde girls with ponytails and little blonde boys with crew cuts, and that was very terrifying for me, because I realized that was probably the perception of myself. I used to get crooks in my neck because I used to always go like that, right? And there was nothing moving, right? I mean, you can go, all you could do is, get crooks in your neck. But I wanted to feel that I had all this stuff, hair that was, flowing. And those were my images of myself as a little girl, because those were the images available.
The black church has been a social, political, and cultural institution for black folks in America. But here, too, Joy was on the outside looking in.
5 years ago, I sat in the black church and felt totally removed from everything. People would sing and get happy, and I could only respond to it with my mind. I was all head. My mind and my body were totally separate things. I can pretend that I'm a whole lot of things. A college professor, an educated person, a director who's had shows in New York and Toronto and Buffalo, But the very same day that I can get the key to the city in Vancouver, Washington, I can be sitting in a restaurant and be called a nigger. I was working with a mime company in Woodstock, and basically the classic thing about mime is that you put white clown white on your face. And so you literally have a white face. And when I say I was white, I mean both, both in terms of value system and in terms of my art form. So I was running around Woodstock doing a promo for a show, and I ran into this dude, some guy out of the city, right? Just looked at me and said, what in the are you doing? The disgust on this guy's face was, I said, I'm being a clown. And he just looked at me and said, wipe that off your face. And that's all he said, was just those 2 things, right? And all of a sudden, you look at the reality of being a clown in Woodstock and you put it into a historical perspective, it feels real dirty. You feel real dirty.
And the ultimate humiliation as a performer, she couldn't even act black.
somebody almost walked off with all of my stuff, and I was standing there looking at myself the whole time, and it wasn't no spirit that took myself, it was a man. About 3 years ago, I reached a fairly significant turning point in my life. Up to that point, I have been fairly successful. I'm a professor at an extremely good small college, Evergreen State College in Olympia. I have traveled around the world. I've been to Russia, I've been to Cuba, I've been North America. I had done, a lot of the things that most people wanted to do, but something was missing. And the only way I can really describe it is something spiritually, because I had the material thing.
Joy lived in this abandoned garage for a year, cutting herself off from her white friends. For the first 3 weeks, 18 hours a day, Joy and a friend tape recorded conversations, trying to pinpoint conflicts that were tearing her apart. She listened to only black music, read books by only black authors, and went to black movies and plays. She made a conscious decision to only buy products made by blacks, shopped only at black stores, and ate at only black restaurants. In short, Joy decided she had to study black to be black.
I walked into Allah one day. Anita had introduced me to them. And it was just one of those points when I was just getting, really frustrated. And I said, okay, either give me something, I either want to go totally ethnic or I want to go totally American. You're going to either do something, with my head, or I want a Jerry curl. I just want either one of the two. And Allah started showing me all these books of all these African statues and stuff like that, and really talking about how really beautiful my features were and how negroid they were and stuff like that, and what a neat head I had, and was I ready to go for broke. When I discovered that the kind of lifestyle that was the most attractive to me was the lifestyle of an artist, my images were of white artists. I didn't know any black artists. You don't see any black art. I didn't see any Jacob Lawrence. I didn't know that. I didn't even know black people did art until about 40 years ago. I knew that they were actors and they were singers, but I didn't know there were any visual artists or sculptors or that there was a black artistic community. I've been lucky enough to be involved with some really fine, competent artists who are working really hard about trying to do some creative projects. And I think as an artist, as a black artist, we can't sit around and talk about the people come to us. I think we've got to go to the people.
So now Joy also teaches in the black world, a group of black adults in Tacoma, Washington, who are working towards undergraduate degrees.
I remember that one time in class when somebody, I guess Maxine, mentioned to Melvin, why was he wearing those, that he looked lovely, but that his pants were always 2 inches too short, right? And why did he wear that green suit that was too short all the time? And he said, because I'm an insurance salesman. I can't walk in looking better than my clients. I have to look like I need them to buy a policy from me. So every time they see my green suit, they feel sorry for me. They buy a policy, and I do my job, all right? Melvin understood about the whole idea of being multicultural. One of the important things, about returning your skills to the community is that you got to be very careful about the whole missionary kind of thing. I've got something to offer. It doesn't work that way. It really doesn't work that way. Right now, the Tacoma group is teaching me.
And now that Joy has completed her journey home and feels a part of places like this, she remembers what it was like for her in the white world. And she's doing what she can so that other blacks don't lose their identity as she did.
I have a friend, all right, who's Indian and black mixture, all right. He comes from the Indian tribe that gave the Pilgrims Thanksgiving, the Pequoks. There are only 2 families of the Pequoks left in the world. And when his grandmother dies, there will be no more Pequoks. It's a tribe of people that are that are extinct. The people who gave the Pilgrims Thanksgiving. And he talks about what it means to come from an extinct people. You know, and talked about why he worked so hard in terms of black community, black art and stuff like that, because he doesn't want 5 generations from now for some little undefined child to go to a museum and see a stuffed version of the last of the black man. I don't think we have a choice. I mean, I did not fulfill the main qualification that it took to live in a white world. And that is, I wasn't white.
Joy's journey was not smooth or easy. She traveled a rough road, a difficult path. But she's happy with herself and satisfied with where she's at. She now feels more comfortable with her blackness than ever before. Joy's story is becoming more and more typical as more blacks enter the American mainstream. What her experience has taught her more than anything is that a culture must be preserved and cherished, or it will be lost.
Night coming tenderly.
Okay, remember to move back.
Black like me.
Find a way of moving back on that. Keep singing until you get back.
Oh,
Right, come on.
to bleed.
Right. Okay.
Black like me.
All right, nice, and freeze. Freeze, Rhonda.